Hey, Foot Clan. Before we start today's show, I want to thank our sponsor, SleeperBot and the SleeperBot app. Look, it's our job every single day of the week to hook you up with the absolute best tools to help you win your fantasy football league. And you heard us talk about them last year. You have to get the SleeperBot app. It's that simple. It's a free app, and they have the fastest alerts in the business. They break the news faster so you can get into your league and make moves quicker. They're the absolute best. When Romo went down, it was SleeperBot that broke that news faster than anybody else. So go get the SleeperBot app today.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
We're back. Oh, you had such a reserved sound from Mike.
I'm running at like 80%.
I'll tell you what, using the new injury designations in fantasy football, Mike was a D. Mike was a D.
I was.
He was doubtful for today. And I was preparing the show, Jason and I, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, I'm going to be in.
Yeah, because you know what? It's good to be back, America.
It's good to be back.
He Eric Deckered it.
I thought you were going to say NyQuil was the answer to your... Did it get you back in business?
NyQuil was all day yesterday, and it was wild. It was a wild ride.
I didn't even tell people you were sick. We just said we'll have him back tomorrow. I wanted you to appear very strong and not weak, but now they know.
But now anybody that can listen,
So it was-
or if they're watching on YouTube, they know you were very sick.
So it was
Sickly.
You'd prefer to project an image of me as a lazy person who's just skipping work. Yes.
Oh, so you heard the show, did you? Did you? No, but that's a good point. I haven't missed any shows ever. All right, we're here Tuesday, August 30th, 2016. We're back again. We have our biggest fantasy surprise. That is our quick question. We're going to get into that in just a moment. We have a ton of fantasy football questions we're going to answer from the listeners of this show, and we're going to get into a bunch of news that you need to know. If you've already drafted or if you're drafting this weekend, we have a draft this afternoon, our Listener League draft.
I have two.
You have two this afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, on Labor Day, we have our Big League of Record draft, where hopefully the facility that we'll be in has Wi-Fi, because that is kind of important. That's the hope. We released our NFL Combine video yesterday.
Yes, we did.
To
I don't know why you're so excited about that.
too much fanfare.
Because I was excellent.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
know what? The expectations were so low for you
I know that's
that
what's
you
so
have
great.
surprised the world, Jason.
The fat man can jump.
Now, what was left off of the end of the video was the final tally, in which I had the most victories. And it's important that I bring that up now because I feel horribly depressed about that video. I told the guys this morning, after watching the video, I think my dad called me yesterday. He had like a medical thing going on, and I wanted to see how he was doing. Everything was fine. And then I said, Dad, I go, dude, I'm like depressed after seeing that video. Like, I think of myself as a like young 20s athletic guy like I was. And I did not feel like that.
We're gonna come into work tomorrow, Mike, and Andy's gonna drive in a convertible.
Jet black hair.
Just full midlife crisis.
I ran a mile this morning.
Did you
good
really?
for
I
you.
got out.
He's preparing for next combine.
At 5 a.m, I got up and I told my wife I'm gonna go run, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Wow.
And I said, "I don't know. I'm up, so I'm gonna run."
Well, it's so weird that you think of yourself as like the mid-20s athletic guy, because I don't think of you like that at all.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mike. We've got a good show. Let's jump into the quick question. Here it is. What will be the biggest surprise in fantasy football this season? So pick one thing that you think might be the biggest surprise for fantasy football players this season. Let's start with Mike.
All right. I don't know if it's going to be a super shock because we're sort of seeing it, but it's still surprising. And that is Cleveland Browns players are going to win you fantasy weeks. You're going to have Terrelle Pryor started
That's impossible.
at the right time, and he's going to get you a 50-yard bomb touchdown and take you over the top. You're going to have people are going to draft Josh Gordon and stash him late, and it looks like he's back in getting back to form, and he's going to get you a 50-yard bomb touchdown that's going to win you a week and maybe even carry you into the playoffs. Even Robert Griffin is going to have streamability against bad defenses. Isaiah Crowell is going to run the ball a ton. Duke Johnson is going to catch a bunch of passes. We're in a very bizarre world. I was going to say bizarre.
I thought it was berserk. I thought you were going to go berserk.
Bananas. A bizarre world where Cleveland Browns players have become fantasy relevant, and you can get them very late in your draft.
Well, I find that one to be interesting, and we'll see how it turns out. We had the Fantasy MVP episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back into the iTunes archives a couple weeks ago. Listen to that. We had Nando DeFino, who brought up the Browns players. When I was looking for my fantasy surprise, Terrelle Pryor crossed my mind as part, maybe the biggest surprise this season. Here's what I went with. I didn't go with a player or a team. I went with the concept of this. The fantasy running backs taken in the first 2 rounds, I think, are going to perform up to expectations this season. We've seen that 50-50 bust rate lately. Last year, right? Even worse last year.
Yeah, last year was like a 70%
of
the top 12.
So we're talking David Johnson, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Doug Martin, Lev Bell, McCoy,
Gurley,
Lamar Miller, Gurley. I think the vast majority of those players are going to perform up to expectations. It's going to reset the minds of fantasy owners a little bit towards the running back position. I'm still drafting running backs early, and I think that you're going to see consistency from those positions. So that's my biggest surprise, and I think it is a surprise for owners because I think a lot of them have thrown the towel in on early round running backs.
Yeah, they certainly have, and if you look historically at the numbers, I think it's surprising that we've done it so quick. So I like that surprise a lot. My surprise is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. Players on the Dallas Cowboys are going to win you fantasy championships. I'm talking about bringing you home the hashtag FootClan titles. I believe that the Cowboys are going to play an integral role in that because, and not necessarily because you drafted them, the mood around Dallas right now is obviously very dark, very bleak. Dez Bryant's dropping. We talked about this on yesterday's episode. To me, Zeke is dropping. Obviously, Tony Romo has half dropped dead. That being said, Tony Romo will come back late in the season, and they have a juicy, awesome schedule in the fantasy playoffs. For most people's championship weeks, they're going to go to the New York Giants, Tampa Bay, and the Detroit Lions for your 3-week run of championship team of those weeks in your fantasy playoffs. And the reality is, I think you're going to be able to get them cheap in the middle of the year when players aren't doing that well. Dez Bryant, you're going to be able to get him for cheap. So those guys, I think, will surprise because they're not going to get off to a fast start, and they might surprise you in the end.
I think that's an interesting take, specifically the part where you can acquire these guys after maybe they underwhelm for the beginning part of the season. So somebody to target. You can hear Jason already planning for the championship.
Yeah, that's
Starts
bold.
early.
That's a bold
It's a
move.
bold plan there. All right, that is it for the fantasy surprises. Before we get into the news, I want to remind everybody to head over to jointhefoot.com, our fantasy community. Get involved there. You have thousands of listeners you can talk to, ask questions of us, of them. You can get an extra episode every week, exclusive content. We've got a giveaway. If you get in right now, before the end of this month, you get to take part in the giveaway that happens at the beginning of September with the autographed Sammy Watkins jersey from Pristine Auction. We have a couple of trophies we're giving away from Fantasy Jocks and a bunch of fantasy footballers gear, shirts, things like that. So you can get involved in that giveaway. You can follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We're going to be trying to break all the news that we can for you all season long, give you fantasy spin on the news that breaks. And check us out on YouTube. That's where you can see the ridiculously fun combine video that we took place. This was a video that we agreed that we would do for our listeners. We would compete in an NFL-style combine. And, we put the old man. Hey, you know what? We were all I didn't get to say this because we didn't want to reveal anything. I did not beat Tom Brady's 40 time. But I'm 32.
That's true.
And his 40 time was 5.28, and I ran a 5.4, and I'm okay with it.
I think that the challenge has to be set right now.
Next year?
That 1 year from today, we're going to
I think we're going to make it
back.
an annual thing.
Ooh.
I think we are. We've seen the requests. It adds motivation for me to not
to run miles
to
at 5
run
in the morning.
miles at 5 in the morning. I think if we do it every year and we see if we can beat the times, that'll be pretty impressive. So, and maybe Jason won't surprise everybody next year.
I'll just get fatter and surprise even more. Whoa, he put on so much weight and still out-jumped you guys?
I hope that people think you get progressively shorter in each and every year. Because
that
was
people
the
are
big
blown
news.
away that
They don't understand how short you are.
Yeah, apparently my
You
chair
sit
is
tall in
higher
your chair.
than you guys.
Yeah, Jason is 4'3".
What's funny is it's not that I'm short. You're both tall
We're very
individuals.
tall. Yeah.
You're like 6'3". I'm almost 6 foot, and I'm this midget in the video.
Yeah, well, let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Mike was talking about how much pride he had in Kenny Still's performance last week and the fact that he got
pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you
Yeah,
called
because
him last
you said
year
you had
and
30 minutes of validation. And Kenny Still,
yes.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
Okay.
You okay?
I told you I'm running 80%.
Yeah, I was giving you credit. Now
Yeah.
Kenny Still's got hurt.
You give me credit?
Yeah, well, maybe that's why it was so shocking.
Yeah, well, I've turned over a new leaf ever since this combine.
It's a new man.
Turning my life around. Kenny Stills, his back locked up on Monday's practice. There were some reports that it might have been a serious injury. Now they're saying not considered serious. However, I don't think you really – I'm going to say this. Devontae Parker was in consideration for me as a surprise of the year as well.
On the upside?
On the upside. And I don't know if Kenny Stills wants to give Parker kind of
The opportunity.
a window to lock up that spot. So if Stills is hurt and he doesn't play in the beginning part of the season, and we will find out, I would not expect anything from him if he's not part of the beginning of the season, to be honest. That's my opinion. Do you have a different take?
I think Kenny Stills, even if he's not there at the beginning, would reclaim his spot.
What do you think about Tony Romo's health?
Did something happen?
You remember the episode that morning?
Oh, yeah. I fully believe that Romo would be okay, but apparently he has a broken disc in his back.
Yeah, Jerry Jones came out
Or
yesterday.
not broken.
Bone.
Yeah, broken bone, yes. Okay.
Mike,
Yeah.
Mike needs some,
We're good. We're good,
give him
man.
a shot. All right, the radio interview of Jerry Jones yesterday said that Tony Romo, he doesn't know when he's going to return. Nice big 4 to 10 week window.
That's a wide.
It's got to be more towards
That's like a cable company.
Is that,
They're like,
yeah.
we'll be there between 8 and 6 p.m. Who knows?
Oh, that's the worst.
Maybe today, maybe tomorrow.
Do you know that you can hire people to do those type of things for you, like wait around?
like a
Well, like you went and you waited in line for what was it? The ability to, like, in 2 or 3 years when Teslas come out.
Sure.
You wanted to be at least on the list.
Sure.
So you had the option to buy one. And so people went and they waited in line for 10 hours. You can go online and hire people to wait in line for you.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Couchsitter.com.
I forget what it's called.
Firstworldproblems.com. Is what
Yeah,
it's
or
called.
go. You can hire people to call your cable company and negotiate a better rate for you, so you don't have to wait on hold.
Oh, man.
I forget what that place is called. I'll have to look it up. All right, the Packers coach Mike McCarthy said Randall Cobb, quote, played the whole season last year injured.
He did.
That is my favorite excuse.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, when he went down in that preseason game with the shoulder problem, it looked very serious, and we were surprised that he got back in so quickly. And, I mean, if your shoulder is really hurting you and you can't fully extend, then that's going to be a problem for a wide receiver.
Well, what he said is he couldn't work out, so he wasn't strong enough during the season because the shoulder prohibited him from working out. That's what he said. We'll find out this year. I'd love to see Randall Cobb rise to relevance.
And he looked okay.
Yeah,
but
he did. He caught a touchdown.
But that
this
Green
last
Bay
game,
offense, man. Ugh.
I thought
I know.
Cobb was a lone bright spot.
Maybe they'll bring back James Jones. Recently cut James Jones.
Did he get cut again?
Got cut by the Chargers.
Oh, come on.
He can't play for anybody else.
Oh, James.
All right, the Bears tight end Zach Miller returned to practice along with Eddie Royal. They were both missing almost a month from concussion, so that's just a quick blurb there. And then Jordy Nelson participated in his first full practice at Packers camp on Monday.
All right, so he's going to play.
Can Jordy Nelson fix everything? We asked this question yesterday. Can he fix everything, Mike?
I don't know if he can fix everything.
I'm
I think he can fix a lot. When you have an elite level wide receiver, it changes a lot of things.
I'm starting to believe that he will not fix everything, and I'm a little worried about the Green Bay offense for this season. Just slightly. I still think they'll be better than last year, but I'm not sure that they're going to just bounce immediately back to that 2014 level. Also, since this is kind of the news, the fourth week of the preseason, there's not much action. I do hear the Saints are going to start their starters in the first quarter.
And the Browns.
But maybe this is a curse. But we got through this preseason without a lot of injury.
No,
I don't think it's going to happen because
there's
most
been a
people are
lot,
still,
just not to.
They're not catastrophic injuries to top fantasy players like there is every single year. What's the biggest injury? Tony Romo's back for a few weeks.
That's
a big one.
Some consider that a big
But
deal.
by
for Dez.
comparison to previous years, I'm just saying congratulations,
Ben Watson,
fantasy owners. Ben Watson wasn't drafted in most leagues.
Kenneth Dixon.
I rest my case.
All right. So before we get into the I hope you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, he's spitting in the face.
There's still some time left before the season begins.
Breaking news.
Oh, yeah. Go check Roto World. Before we get into the mailbag, answer a bunch of listener questions, pre and post draft questions. I want to remind everybody about SleeperBot and the SleeperBot app. Look, we're on here for an hour a day. People are on SleeperBot 24/7. Doesn't matter where you're at. You can talk fantasy football on SleeperBot. Like I said, the best alerts in the business. People who had the SleeperBot app, they could go snatch up Dak Prescott in your deep leagues. If you lost Tony Romo, they were able to get that news right away. They have new things added to the app this year, like player profiles with advanced stats, including stuff like the stats we love, average depth of target.
Oh, love it.
That type of stuff. Real-time trending players, live stats. This is a really good companion app to whatever you have on your phone. And the nice thing is you just have to go. The app is completely free, and you can go onto iOS or Android and just search for SleeperBot. That's it. And my favorite thing is still the alerts.
They're so quick, and I love having SleeperBot.
Basically, when Jason and I have had it installed, ever since last year, and it's basically a race because we'll both get the alert, and it'll be who can get onto Slack faster and type the news, because that's where you hear
if we're breaking the news.
Oh yeah. Well, it's another race. We're very competitive. So check out the SleeperBot app on iOS or Android.
Hey, and we also want to thank our sponsor, Indochino Custom Menswear. Men, listen up to this one because this is really, really good. A very good deal. Every man out there needs a suit. Look, I don't know whether you are wearing a suit now and you wear a suit every day to work, or whether it's a special occasion type of thing, weddings, funerals, everything in between. Every man needs a suit. The problem is a custom-made suit is super duper expensive. You're talking thousands of dollars if you get a tailor nice made suit where you look like you didn't just grab something off of a Walmart rack.
Especially for someone as short as you, right?
But Indochino has really tackled that problem and solved it head on. And for our listeners, they are giving you an up to 50% off coupon. A total custom tailored super suit is $3.99 for our listeners through Indochino. All three of us have done this. We have done the measurements.
Very
at
easy.
Home. It is very easy. It feels really kind of nice. Like, ooh, I'm important. That's how I felt getting measured. Everything is customizable down to your linings, your lapels, your personal monogram. And I believe these two got some crazy linings
inner lining, the galaxy lining.
Yeah. You guys are going to look so great.
You're going to look like the NBA draft guys. I mean, I'm looking fresh.
So here's what you do. Today, you can get any premium suit for just $3.99. It's up to 50% off. Go to Indochino.com and enter footballers at checkout. And plus, the shipping is free. There is no reason not to try your first custom-made suit with the deal this good. So that's Indochino.com, promo code footballers for any premium suit. Just $3.99 and free shipping. Indochino, your look, your way.
Mike, do you have it in you today? Are you going to be able to do this?
Bumblebee.
You have no choice.
Mailbag.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Whew, I actually got a little worried there for a second.
I give that a good 8.9.
That's a pass.
The Michael Phelps of mailbags. All right, let's get into the mailbag. If you have a question, go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button, submit one to the show. You can also dial our voicemail hotline 302-464-TFFB. We're going to work some voicemail questions into the mailbag today. We went through, we picked out some good questions, some questions we think will help a lot of people as we discuss the players involved. And we're going to start right now with a question from SQ00109. Is that birth name?
Yeah, that must be.
In Statesboro, Georgia. He has Mike Evans, Des Bryant, Ezekiel Elliott, and Doug Martin. Is trading Martin and Des for Lacy and Landry a good trade? This is a PPR league. So Doug Martin, Des Bryant for Lacy and Landry. Is that a good trade?
No. I think that's a bad trade, even in a PPR league. I think people are down on Dez. You've got the Dez and Eazy-E combo, so you're probably feeling bad about your team because of the Romo news. This is where you're overreacting, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to downgrade from Dez to Landry and take what's pretty much just a lateral move from Doug Martin to Eddie Lacy. I don't see any reason to make this trade other than you're on tilt from Tony Romo news.
Yeah, I would agree. I dropped Dez, I think, the most out of the three of us. I have him in full PPR. I have him at 14 right now, so I actually have him outside of that wide receiver 1 range, but I have Landry at 23. So I just taking that drop, and it was going from Elliott to Martin, right?
Yeah.
I think
No. He'd be going from
Martin to Lacy.
Martin to
to Lacy. Oh, he has Elliott. Okay.
Yeah, I would not do that. I agree with Jason's take on the whole thing. So we're going to jump into a voicemail question now, so listen up.
Hey, guys, love the show. Been listening for about 2 years now. Keep up the great work. I have a question about your favorite position, the kicker. This is Tom from Burlington, New Jersey. And my question is, as much as everybody says kickers do not matter, when it comes to kicker scoring, do you believe that there should be negative points taken for missed field goals and extra points? Thanks a lot, guys, and take care.
Should there be negative? Let's say you're playing with a kicker. All right, Jason,
sure.
you
Most
have to
leagues
accept
play
that.
with a kicker, and most leagues do have negative scoring for missed field goal.
I think most do not.
You think most do not?
Ours does, and so I think that's what we're used to. I think most do not. It is a difficult thing for me to decide on, to be honest with you, and here's why. I feel like if a kicker misses a 30-something yard field goal, he should be punished.
I agree.
However, there's those like intangible things that happen, like a mishandled snap and a blocked kick, and those things are more frustrating, and I know they can be the kicker's fault sometimes, and I guess you just have to work them in there. But I would not punish them severely. That's what I would say.
So
-1 for anything that they miss from 30 to 40, a -1 for extra points.
Oh, 30 to 40?
Yeah.
See, for me, it's 30 and under, it's -1. Everything else is no minus.
Yeah, in our league of record, I have, for the last few years, gotten up at the draft and said, let's get rid of kickers, and then everybody says no. And then I say, let's nerf kickers, and that's really how I'm trying to get it, which is stop giving these crazy bonuses for hitting a 50-yard field goal where you end up getting 5 points like the guy scored a touchdown, and stop doing these -3 points.
You gonna stand up again this year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, every year. Get rid of the kicker in our league or nerf him as much as we can. But I would say, 3 points for a field goal. If you miss an easy one, a 30-yard or under, -1. If you hit a great one and you want that bonus, you hit some over 50, then give them 1 bonus point.
What about extra points?
Extra points should be worth 1. And if you miss, I think, whatever. Now I would just not,
Really?
Yeah.
I would still -1 for if you want to roll that way.
All right, JT in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 0.5 point per reception league, flush with top wide receiver talent. My third guy is Eric Decker. Problem is my running backs are Ingram, Woodhead, Duke Johnson, and Riddick. Should I ride those 4 guys or look to trade some wide receiver depth for additional running backs? 12-team league, and you guys can see the other players he has there. I would not feel comfortable with Ingram, Woodhead, Duke Johnson, and Riddick myself. I would not.
Oof.
No, me either. Obviously, some of this is going to depend on your wide receivers. No, your wide receivers, I like them, but they are not good enough. The hope is when I see running backs like this, that for some reason the draft fell to you and you got like 3 top 12 wide receivers and you just had to take them, and so you sacrificed your running backs. this is okay, but yeah, I would look to make some moves.
Yeah, if you can make a move for an RB2 without getting rid of one of your top players, and I mean, for me, breaking down this roster, if you'll be playing Beckham, Keenan Allen, and either Moncrief and Decker for at the same time, and you do have Ingram as your running back one, I'm okay moving forward with just playing the matchups of Woodhead and Duke Johnson.
If I could package like an Eric Decker or Moncrief along with
Duke or Woodhead.
Duke or
Yeah,
Woodhead
exactly. That's
to
exactly
get
what I
a
would do.
good running back,
Yep.
I would do that because then you still have the other Moncrief or Decker to plug into that third spot.
Yeah, except for when I try to do stuff like that, people are like, no, someone told me not to do that on a podcast. And it was me. All right, Tony Romo, Dez Bryant question from Josh in Seattle. Guys, I just had my draft on Saturday morning. I picked up Dez and got Terrence Williams late. An hour after the draft, the Romo news came out. Does the news about Romo change how you feel about Bryant and Williams? And if so, what should I do with them? Well, first, this is why we draft as late as possible and why our League of Record draft is...
That's going pretty late, though.
Oh, I understand. And I think I'm just giving the example of why we try. Not everybody can do that. We've drafted earlier because people are out of town and can't do stuff, and, it's out of your control. That being said, the guy that took the biggest hit for me is Terrence Williams.
Yeah, I would drop him.
I would drop him.
Yeah.
There's probably a better flyer on your waiver wire than Terrence Williams at this point.
Yeah, Dez is kind of, in another echelon where he's just going to be fed whether they want to or not.
Yeah, at this point, if you have Dez Bryant, you're wondering what to do. You do nothing because there's no way you're going to get enough value for who he is. You're not going to – I think if you trade him right now, you're making a mistake. And he's still going to be good, but he's not going to be as good as probably where you drafted him if you drafted him before the news.
Now,
there's nothing you can do, though.
I feel the need to pause and talk about Dak Prescott for a minute because some of the feedback that we got about our comments on Dak Prescott as they contrasted with, let's say, Melvin Gordon, right? Both of them have had, like, a good preseason, and people maybe perceive, well, but you don't like Dak Prescott, but you like Melvin Gordon. I want to explain for a second.
Sure.
Dak Prescott has been nothing short of impressive. I mean, there aren't things to say about him in the preseason other than he's been very impressive. What you have to understand is that Dak Prescott, unlike Melvin Gordon, Dak Prescott's a rookie quarterback in the NFL. And he's playing in a vanilla system as he acclimates to the offense. And he wasn't expected to be a starter. And he was drafted in the 4th round. And he's going to have opportunities. And I think he will succeed.
3rd round, I believe.
It's 4th. He succeeded.
Prescott's a 4th round pick.
He did succeed. And he will succeed. But he will not succeed to the level of Tony Romo. They will not put as much on his plate as they would a guy like Romo. And I'm not saying he cannot become something special. I'm saying let's be realistic about this. A guy does not walk into the NFL, whether you're Andrew Luck or a first-round guy,
Manning.
or you're a 4th-round guy. You don't get to walk in and have things handed to you. People will adjust, put pressure on him in different ways. And all I'm saying is that it is not – some people wanted to just translate, well, Tony's looked much worse than Dak in the preseason, so Dak's going to just walk in. And you know what? If he does, I'm going to be blown away because that doesn't happen in the NFL very often. You're going to have games you struggle, and what's going to happen to the Cowboys? If you had to define everything, let's say Dak performs up to snuff. He's going to have off games, and those off games are different than what Romo would have had, and so it's going to kill you some weeks. That's my take on it.
Well, and just wait until there's tape. These teams are not game planning to play against Dak Prescott in the preseason.
They're not even game planning, much less against him.
They're going to start – these are professional coaches who are going to break down tape and figure out where Dak Prescott struggles, and they will take advantage of it. I'm with Andy that I think there's going to be some good
ups
stuff.
And downs,
There'll be
ups and
good
downs.
stuff for Prescott, but he's going to have games where he just takes a beating.
Yeah, and it's just an interesting situation to even be here because if you didn't have his name's escaping me, the guy that broke his ankle, their backup last year, Kellen Moore. If he doesn't break his ankle, Prescott probably doesn't get these type of opportunities. And it's good for Dallas that they have a guy that they can groom. But anyway, I just wanted to cover that. There was a voicemail question that came in. I'm going to summarize it for you guys. It was too long to play on the air. But basically, he was insulting his commissioner because he found out after the draft that it was a 2-quarterback league.
What?
So look. Yeah, those are that's,
Wait, what?
That's the hand he's been dealt.
Bush League.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll say this. Check your league scoring format. Like, what? Unless this commissioner, right before the draft, changed everything and didn't tell
That's a good
people.
point. It's fair.
But here's the situation. He found out after the draft. So his two quarterbacks are Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott right now. That being said, we just talked about Prescott. Should he drop Dak Prescott for Alex Smith or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Wait, so Alex Smith and Fitzpatrick are on the
They're
waiver
on waiver wire.
Do the other people in this league know it's a 2-quarterback league?
Yeah, because
I know.
you
I
should
know.
probably pick both those guys up.
I would pick both of them up.
Yeah, it's a 2-quarterback. You want to have 3 on your roster.
And if I had those 3, I'd be fine.
Yeah, I would too.
Dalton, Smith, and Fitzpatrick, you could luck into being just fine in a 2-quarterback league. You probably drafted great now that these 3 are here.
I was just going to say the fact that you pretty much only had Dalton and got Prescott probably with your last pick or picked him up off of waivers already means that your team is probably stacked around your quarterback.
Yeah, grab them both immediately.
I agree. All right. M-Dog Millionaire in Portland, Maine says, based on matchups through the first 4 weeks of the season, who is the best option as a late-round quarterback to pair with Tom Brady?
Ooh.
One of the guys that I'll bring up, and you can look, Mike, and see if you can pick out some guys. I'm going to bring up Matthew Stafford to start the year.
Yeah.
He has a very good first-week matchup with the Colts defense. I like that matchup compared to guys like Cousins starts against the tougher defense. I think the Steelers. I like Stafford as a late-round option. If he's one of those guys that in some drafts is falling all the way to the back. That would be one that I'd pick out. I think Alex Smith can be that guy. Now, you weren't on the show yesterday, Mike, but I came out and I said it. The team that I'm most impressed with on preseason tape is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, they've been excellent.
And we know the ceiling and the problems with Alex Smith, but he does run the ball a little bit. He has weapons with Kelsey, Macklin. Conley looks good to me. Charles is back. I think he could be a good guy to pair with him, and he'd be free.
Here's a guy
You don't even have to draft him.
I'll throw out there Derek Carr. Derek Carr here's his first 4 weeks. He opens with the New Orleans Saints.
All right.
That's delightful. Then the Atlanta Falcons. That's pretty good. Tennessee Titans, sign me up. Baltimore. I think those 4 teams in the first 4 weeks you don't have are at least good matchups, plus matchups from last year. If they play the way they played last year, he should get off to a hot start.
What are the first 2 again?
New Orleans, Atlanta,
Yeah.
Tennessee, Baltimore.
The way I would be handling this situation is I'm just looking at those first 2 games. For like Carr is perfect because the 4-game schedule sounds great right now. We know that things could turn around very quickly in the NFL. But as long as his first couple games look solid, that's where I'll start. And then if I have to stream the next 2, then so be it.
And really, Phillip Rivers to me, I mean, he has a great beginning. His week 1 not so hot against Kansas City, but that's just we always say on this podcast that when you draft a late quarterback, your hope is to have him for the season. And there's only upside there, even if you draft him with Tom Brady. If you can get Phillip Rivers, if he drops late and you compare him with Tom Brady, great. Trade one of them if they're both great later on.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into another voicemail question.
Hi, this is Rick from Rochester, New York, and I already had my fantasy draft. In fact, I drafted Dion Lewis the day before it was announced that he was going to be on the PUP list for the first 6 weeks of the year. So my question to you is, should I drop him and pick up someone with the likes of James White when I have David Johnson, Jamal Lewis, Justin Forsett,
and Charles
Sims on my roster, or should I just hold on to Dion and wait until he comes back and see if he can give me a boost for the second half of the year? Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well, first thing you do is you cut Jamal Lewis.
Right. He was really, really good.
Yeah, that was a
while ago.
You must admit Jamal Charles.
This guy's having a rough day. I'm going to give him a pass.
Let's talk about – look, here's all we need to discuss. Do you drop Lewis for James White if you have Lewis right now? If that's the choice you have, do you do it?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. I obviously assume he doesn't have an IR. And if you're in like a standard 5-bench league, holding Dion Lewis for that long for nothing.
He's got the cable guy as well.
Yeah, that's tough.
Maybe it's 6, maybe it's 10.
Yeah, and then you're a running back that has to come back and get volume to be important. And it's just really difficult. It sucks. It
does.
sucks for Dion. Wide receiver question from Thomas in Jasper, Georgia. I'm in a standard 3 wide receiver league. How do you feel about drafting 2 wideouts from the same team like Marshall and Decker? What do you think?
Don't like it. I don't usually like it because Marshall and Decker were fine if you started them every single week last year. But every single week, if I had that choice to make, I would have a very difficult time plugging them in. I just don't want to assume that I get one team's offensive output and it's got to go to my guys. I just don't like that.
Yeah, you know for sure that they cannot score at the same exact time. Although I mean, I feel like I've talked about this before.
I think we made that joke.
Did you see the play with? I think it was Prescott who was trying.
Oh yeah,
he was
trying to hand the ball off.
He was trying to do a read option. Didn't want to let go.
Yeah,
and I think it was Alf was just holding on to it. And I was like, my dream could
Yeah,
come
you get-
true right now. Of 2
simultaneous possession, 2 touchdowns on 1 play.
Are there any?
They could pitch it. They could pitch it to Brandon Marshall. He could throw it to Decker.
guys. Yeah.
Are there
Sure.
any wide receiver pairs that you would want? I mean, this is a good option, right? One of the best. Last year, these guys and Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns come to mind. But are there any pairs in the league that you would say, I want both of them on my roster?
On my roster, yeah, I'm fine with them on my roster. I'm trying to think of it. Would I want to roll them both out there every week together? I don't know. I think Jordy and Cobb are the 2 that I would probably say I'd be okay in a 3 wide receiver league, 12-team, 14-team league, just throwing them both out there. I'm not going to care. That's fine.
What about like Fitzgerald and Floyd?
Probably not. I just I don't know.
Normally, when you're in a draft, wherever the guy is that
Cooper
you
and
like,
Crabtree, maybe.
I was just gonna say
there's someone else.
Vincent
right?
Jackson and Mike Evans.
Most of the time when you're in a draft and you're picking a guy, you're picking between 2 or 3 very evenly statted guys. If one of them shares the team with your guy, I would go another direction.
All right. Draft pick trade from Zach in Cleveland. He has the number 3 overall pick. He just received a trade where he would get the 11th pick and the 29th for his 3rd. So he'd give up the 3rd and he'd get the 11th and the 29th. Do you risk missing out on Julio or OBJ to get depth?
Do you risk? You're not risking. You're giving him away.
Yeah.
And I do not.
I don't either. I don't think the 29th player off the board is going to be worth giving up that positional advantage that, there's only 5 or 6 guys in the league that are those true, absolute elite difference makers. Those guys are usually on playoff teams. I'm keeping Julio or ODB here.
And again, I'll remind people the best way to mentally think about trades like this is just pick a guy in the 11th and 29th in your mind right now and decide whether you would take that trade for Julio Jones. Most of the time, if you listen to our tips and tricks show, we talked about the guy getting the 1, the single player, not the double, is oftentimes the winner of those trades because you also afford yourself another a waiver wire spot, and you have the better, more talented player, the better contributor. Could you luck into, okay, you get Mike Evans at number 11 and he ends up a top 3 guy, and then the 29th pick you get
Sammy Watkins, and he's great.
You could, but now you've got variables at 2 with 2 players where you have none with Julio or OBJ. So, man, I will say this though. Matt Ryan is the restrictor of Julio Jones.
He looked so bad.
He looks like.
Can you believe he threw another red zone interception? I thought okay, we're done with last year.
Yes,
I can. I mean, I feel like as time goes by, he looks less and less like a championship-winning quarterback and more like he's got the deer in the headlights or something. Like, I don't know. This system doesn't seem to compliment him. And I'm going to...
He's Benjamin Buttoned. He came into the league real good, and he's just gotten more like a rookie as time has gone on.
Oh, yeah. It's you remember we talked combine expectations? When you come in as a rookie, your expectations are so low. Look at Dak Prescott. He's the Super Bowl champ now. But if in 3 years Dak Prescott looks like he does now...
Yep, no good.
That's not good. So that is it for today's mailbag segment. We thank you for joining us. Am I right that tomorrow is going to be our My Guys episode?
Yes, you are correct.
That's one of my favorite episodes. The My Guys episode is we're each going to select 3 players to basically plant our flag on, to hold up high, to wave the banner for, and it's always fun. I already know my guys.
Well, we'll see if they're not shared by any of us. We might have to fight over some of these guys.
Doubt it. You guys are always.
That's true. You pick stupid.
You guys are always wrong. You guys have anything else you want to share before we head out?
No, just
if you're drafting, don't forget the Ultimate Draft Kit. We've had thousands of you send us your drafts and tell us how great the kit is and how it helped you so much when you. We had one guy who was doing a remote draft and they weren't going to have like internet access. He said multiple hundred pages from the draft kit. He sent me a picture of all of the like tiered cheat sheets, a file folder in a manila folder.
I hope that he transcribed all of the video profiles.
I hope he burned it all afterwards so that nobody else could get access to that data.
Good point.
That we highly recommend burning whatever you print.
Classified.
Yeah. So, but join us tomorrow on the show. Obviously, if you're listening on iTunes, on Android, we invite you to subscribe and review the show if you enjoy what you hear. We are very, very much committed to providing the highest quality fantasy advice all season long. Jason's laughing over here.
Well, I just didn't know what fanny advice. Fanny advice was. You start running a mile in the morning, you think you can give out fanny advice. It's just tighten it up.
Tighten it up.
The best
all right.
fanny in fantasy.
It's good that I hit the outgoing button here.
The fanny reaper.
Check out fantasyjocks.com for the best trophies, draft boards, everything you need to say that you're a winner. Code is footballers.
Fanny advice.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.